digital equipment and think, there was a civilization here.
What
was
it
it all about?
Back on the spaceships, and then we'll be like, well, that just a dream.
So, Atif, growing up in the 90s.
Yeah, the shop was the main focus. I mean, it was ahead of its time. So we had games in here, arcade games. We had a pool table, we used to have pool knockouts. And it was, like you just said, somebody went home for the dinner. The next point of call, well, I'll see you at the shop in half an hour. See you at the shop in 40 minutes. Just to go to Barracks Quarry. Just go mess about in there for a few hours. We took you along when you first moved. You got to jump off the cliff. And,
I remember when I jumped off and I had to carry me back home.
Carry you back home with sprained ankle. But that's what we did at the States, and we used to go down banking and mess about. We used to get cardboard from here, slide down banking.
I never jumped off again, by the way, after I sprained my ankle. But I do remember it. So welcome to BB Shop Pod. We've got another episode here with another person that's been part of the community all these years. Although he's moved away now, he always visits at any opportunity he gets. Back to Ponte, back to LLP, and over to our guest today, Atif Fiaz. Welcome to the show, Atif. How are you?
I'm all right.
No problem, Atif. Atif, I'd like to start. I mean, everybody who's watching this and lives in the community are probably already aware of who you are, but for the people who don't know, can you explain who you are and your connection to Pontefract, and in particular, Love Lane?
Yeah, well, I was born and bred around here. My dad came around here in the 70s, and him and his brothers secured work in Nottingley. And I grew up around Halfpenny Lane and Love Lane, and LLP, as they call it, the Love Lane Posse, that we've never forgot. I've always had a link, and whenever I'm coming this way, when I get past the crematorium, it just brings back a flood of memories. I went to school here, Halfpenny. I went to Love Lane, and then I went on to the King's School. I've grown up round here doing all his mischief and doing all his antics that we got up to. And I'm here today to relive that and talk a bit about what it was like growing up during that time.
And no doubt, Atif, you know, your dad and your mum ended up in Pontefract. Work takes people that have probably come from anywhere, but especially from Pakistan, India, or abroad, anywhere abroad. You know, it's work that settles you into that area. Yep. But an area they came to, Pontefract, at that time was very much a non-Asian area, or a non-multicultural area. Yeah. It was very, very much British, white folk.
Yep.
But am I fair to say that they integrated quite well?
Yeah, quite well. My dad went to school here when he was 14, Carlton Boys. Older generation will know Kiba Berry, he taught there. And John Gardner, Mr. Gardner, everybody, I think some older, second, third generation, when they went to King's School, they were there. So yeah, that helped a lot. And it's a tight-knit community as well. It's not, and like you said, there weren't many ethnic minorities or different fusion. So at that time, obviously, people who we didn't know, they knew of us, obviously being a minority. And like yourselves and us being around here, we evolved. And we've got accepted by some good people and close people in schools and local sports clubs as well.
So. Yeah, I mean, we arrived not too long after you guys were here as well, and grew up in the same area. Our experience tells you that people was getting not used to you, but understanding you, because we were different, and different, you know, backgrounds, different sort of festivals we sort of celebrate as well. But that integration and that fusion, as you put, happened because people recognise good for good and bad for bad. So, you know, your family was always very good, and therefore people around them recognised that and accepted it. Likewise, still keeping very much in touch with their ethnicity and their background as well. So it wasn't like a complete, you know, we gave up our moral instincts to who we were and what our background was, but we integrated fine as well, and it worked both ways.
Yeah, and it works at school. Like, obviously, we've got Remembrance Day coming up. Like I've touched on earlier, Mr. Gardner, we're big, ex-army, so we used to have a full day dedicated to Remembrance Day. And obviously, incidents that have gone on over summer, you get all the media and that saying that people don't. If you look at ourselves, yourself, people vouch for you, they'll vouch for us. We're a part of the community. And we do, like, you see these things saying that they don't follow the values, and we are an example of people who do.
Yeah, we're living, breathing proof of what that we always make sure that we, as a community, we're as one. I think Pontefract is a town, but narrowing it down to Love Lane in particular.
Yeah.
We just had a Halloween get up this week, and we don't do it because we don't want to do it. We do it because we want to do it, and it does bring that community hub together,
Of course it
that
does.
oneness.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of fun.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the bonfire coming up, the bonfire night, and obviously it was a big community thing. It has been around here. Susan Blackett, so she's always done bonfires. It's always been a part of hub, part of community.
No, that's right. And then likewise, when we had a bit of extra samosas or extra bit of sweet rice, your mum, my grandma, they always made sure that we handed a little bit out. So that ethnic fusion definitely is something that if you're open to the idea, it happens.
Yeah.
And we are living, breathing proof of that.
That's it. And then in schools, when people have got to know you, I'll get people asking me, do you know us about you? You'll get people asking about us. And that's, somebody's reputation or somebody knowing about somebody, it's all spread.
So, just being in the flow of things, Atif.
Yeah.
There's two other siblings of yours.
Yeah, my brother Shazad. A lot of the people who left school in '94, who 2 years below me, will know of him.
And your sister.
And my sister Asia, she's a bit younger. She's 40 now, so a few years later. So she left a bit later.
And just talking about you and Shaz in particular, there's about 3 years difference.
2 years.
2 years difference. Yeah. But for the people that know them both, they are a bit like chalk and cheese, these two here. But that just shows that focusing yourself on different aspects when growing up. Shaz was very much more academic.
Yeah.
And as we've put, you very much were someone into a lot of fitness, hard work.
A lot of sports, a lot of getting up and seeing what's going on and keeping in touch and making sure people are all right.
That's right. So in terms of keeping it together, because sometimes even when Shaz was living around here, you wouldn't know he was in the house at times.
Yeah.
But you heard Atif before you saw Atif because of his big heart. Always making sure that everybody's all right and checking in on people. So not that they don't both care, because they both do. Because whenever we meet Shaz, people would say the same. But you've definitely made that extra step and that effort to make sure that you haven't forgot your roots.
No. I think coming from, like you were touched on earlier on as well, balancing both the Asian culture and getting accepted and getting to know people here. I think because we as Asian, we're very welcoming. With his families and as different festivals and as different situations such as weddings and any other celebrations or no, I think we've got a tight knit to start with, and we've managed to walk into the everyday life and the way we are.
So actually, growing up in the 90s, we touched upon it in the Gerard episode where we talked about how the shop became a hub almost. Top of the street from everyone. We all came, we congregated outside here, played headers and volleys in the street.
Headers and volleys on the corner. Yeah, the shop were the main focus. I mean, it was ahead of its time. So we had games in here, arcade games. We had a pool table. We used to have pool knockouts. And it would, like you just said, somebody went home for the dinner. The next point of call, I'll see you at the shop in half an hour. See you at the shop in 40 minutes. Some people would get here before others, but if they couldn't find any of the friends, this was the first place you come to, and you'd even ask yourselves, have you seen so and so? Yeah, I've seen someone. He's been here or he's been there, and then we used to link up, and then from here we'd go on to do his head chopping and his garden hopping and his mischief and his.
But it was all meant as it wasn't malicious, was it?
No, it was all meant as fun. There were plenty of things to do. We used to go to Barracks Quarry. We used to go mess about in there for a few hours. We took you along when you first moved. You got to jump off the cliff. And,
I remember when I jumped off and you had to carry me back home.
Carry me back home with sprained ankle. But that's what you did at the States. And we used to go down banking and mess about. We used to get cardboard from here, slide down banking.
I never jumped off again, by the way, after I sprained my ankle. But I do remember it. I remember it well. You carried me back home, all of you.
Well, that's part of the community. But what I want to touch on is, like you mentioned, Gerard, earlier on. Like you said, my brother was very academic. We had different people in the group. Some were academically clever at school. Some had, they came from single parent families, but nobody was looked down upon or nobody was treated any different. It was just one big family. And it wasn't just males; there were females as well. Who, they used to all together. We used to have a big community around here, and people heard of what we were doing and the mischief and the banter, and everybody were coming from Chequerfield, Monkhill, Nevison, Ladybuck, different areas.
Yeah, and that combination. Obviously, we got to a certain stage though. Atif, just moving on slightly, where people chose their own paths.
Yeah.
And you needed some focus.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to talk about your focus. Your focus very much went into fitness side of things. Yes.
Yeah. Well, from being from this estate originally, we used to play a lot of football and we used to keep active. And I got quite a few jobs when I was younger, such as paper rounds and milk rounds. So as it got to about 1990, 1991, the groups that we were associating with started firstly smoking, and then what happened? Well, that became you got secluded, you got singled out, you weren't part of the in thing, as they call it. But being always sporty, and then but at home as well, having the parents that cared and always asked what I were up to, it never really interested me. I always kept the distance from it. Yeah, I wasn't part of the group for a while, but as you've touched on earlier, sport helped me. I used to go running, and while they were still messing about on the streets, or they were in somebody's bedroom smoking or whatever they were doing. And
I think you recognised earlier on that smoking is never the end destination, is it?
No,
it's going to move on to other stuff.
Yeah.
At that time, again, I talk about the Gerard episode.
Yeah.
People weren't fully aware of the implications.
Nobody were aware of addiction and how one thing leads to another. But this probably comes down from good parenting as well. And they tell you, certain things keep away from gambling. There's not any habit can be a bad habit. And we could see where it was going because you could see that it was changing. And then before that, obviously, you got your cannabis coming in, and then it led on to other things. And then you heard in the estate. But people had recognised who was keeping away from that and who was involved in that, but it was easy to get sucked in. But here I am, 2024, living proof of. I mean, now we're in a vape culture with the youngsters today. I've been around like all the people who I grew up with have been drugs, substance abuse, alcohol. I'm living proof you can still keep in touch with them.
But Atif, we'd be doing you a disservice if we don't touch upon how, you saw that happening, but you was always there to help those individuals that chose a different path. So up until some of the friends that you've lost through this addiction,
one or two
you see them and you say, "Get it, car. Let's sort yourself out." And I know you don't talk about that to the general public. Like, look what I did for someone. That was done straight from the heart. It's not to tell people after.
No,
it's because they were friends and they were part of the group.
I look at a deeper thing. I look at the families. I look at the parents. They were good to us. I look at they were like us, basic people who come here. They were working class, and it touches your heart when you've grown up with them. You've gone to school with them, primary school. Some of these, like I was saying, mischief that were done for fun, but you spent some of the best days of your life. And when you see them going down the wrong path, you pull them to the side, or anytime you see them, you try and do what you can do for them. But as people say, they've got to want to help themselves as well. But anytime, I've always got time for them. I've always got time for everybody, anybody who knows me. Like I was saying, I've touched on played rugby at different clubs, and people get to know your personality and what you like, and they know when it comes straight from the art. But these guys, Love Lane, obviously, it's got a belonging to us. It's in the art. We grew up with it. But touching up on what you said, we'll try as much as we can. And if I see some of them today, always got the same amount of respect as what I've got for somebody who's educated or somebody who's graduate.
But you have been burnt though, aren't you? Am I right to say, Atif? Yeah. Even when you try to help people, some people have taken advantage of that.
Oh yeah. There's been several occasions to do, and it knocks you back. But the resolve that you've got in you and the morals, you learn that there's going to be that. It's like in everyday life, these things do happen, and we're living proof of it. It's in and around us.
No, and I think that's great from yourself, Atif. Like, you can still keep on knocking on that door to try to knock a little bit of sense into people, and reminding them of it's never too late if you do want to change your path. And Gerard is living proof
again,
of wanting to help yourself first, and waking up and shaking yourself out of a situation which is just a dark place. Wake up, look yourself in the mirror, and go for it. But I know, obviously, with yourself, Atif, these days you're still into your fitness.
Yeah, still keep fit, still do circuits, boxercise, train a few people on pads. Again, in my youth, got involved in amateur boxing, met some good people as far as even coaches, South Hemsel, Craig Jones, Neil Wayne. There'll be a few generations who'll know of them. Went as far as Leeds, and still. But what I thought as well, as you were saying that, I looked ahead. I thought, all right, a few of them are going down the wrong way, but there's another generation coming through. Same as you said, like your Dave Mid, who's started running now, as people know on Facebook, is posting all his runs on. And I think that stems from it's still having that awareness. They knew that there were people out there. I know he runs his own business, but now he's got into running, and I think he's enjoying it, and he's always on.
No focus. I speak to Dave quite a bit, and you have to have some kind of focus in life. It doesn't matter how rich or poor you are, Atif.
Yeah, true.
You look at the richest rich, the poorest poor. You look at people from good backgrounds and bad backgrounds. You know, like you've touched upon yourself, there's a mixture around here: single parents, good parenting, going to Love Lane School. Further on in life, when we went from Love Lane to King School, there was a fusion from a lot of different areas.
Yeah, they're transcending from once,
But the common problem becomes when you lose focus on something, you see, and you become involved in the wrong focuses.
That's
you
right.
take a lead down yourself down a dark route.
Yeah, it's like today I'm seeing a lot of youth. I mean, I'm saying youth, they're even younger, 13, 14, going to school vaping. I'm like, what's all this about? What is this new? They're like, one does it, it's like sheep, and there's probably, as I'm speaking now, probably a lot of parents watching it, and they probably don't know which avenue to address, but there's probably a lot of youths who are involved in amongst.
But vaping, Atif, is very similar to what in those early 90s. All right, some drugs naturally are a lot more harmful, but still unknown to vaping. By the way, there is an unknown, so people are doing it not knowing the full implications again now. Right. Seems cool.
Exactly.
At the moment.
This is what I was getting on earlier when people started smoking roll-ups. That was cool.
Yeah.
And then it led on to another thing and another thing. But people might say, yeah, I'll just do that. But it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
It's got chemicals in it. Obviously, all these flavours they're not natural. They're not naturally produced. Somebody's producing them in a lab here or abroad.
Yeah, they haven't really got strawberries, has it? So,
it's not natural strawberry and your natural kiwi. This is not natural thing. So, and I think people are just going into the unknown. To be honest with you, and then you get into a group, and then what happens is you don't realise that within that group it becomes a norm for you.
No problem. Just rewinding slightly back, Atif.
Yeah.
You left Pontefract in which year?
I left in 1997.
No problems. And you went to Wakefield?
Wakefield, yeah, down there at Rugby Ground first.
And reason to move to Wakefield, Atif, was it a parenting decision more than anything?
Well, I got married, to be honest with you. I just needed a bigger a different area. And obviously my wife from a different background similar to our culture, and we just made a change, to be honest with you. I mean, there'd been no problem staying here because obviously I can get on, in any community, but I've always kept in touch with it.
So, what did Wakefield give you extra? What did Wakefield give you extra, Atif? Yeah, did it give you anything extra, anything different, or did you miss Ponte?
Of course, I miss Ponte. Ponte, where I grown up, all my best friends, all my memories. The people, when I tell them, obviously being a minority, when I tell them, they get shocked. Oh, did you live in Ponte? What were it like? I'm like, some of the best people you're ever going to meet. Best, second, third generation, from, even my dad's age who went to school, and they've got grandchildren and children, and it's a big family, and they're like taken aback because what's happened with a lot of them, as you'll know, they've come and settled in an Asian area. But the good thing that we had, this is where the cheekiness and, we as a young age, we had to get out there and we had to say his piece. And we had to not be held back.
Yeah, give me that drink there, please, Mandy.
So
sorry, guys, just need a bit of a drink.
So that helped us at that age in being confident, doing the mischief and what have you, being a bit cheeky, helped. And when I got to Wakefield and mentioned this, they're like taken aback because a lot of them come and they're in the secluded communities. So
do you think that has a negative effect, Atif? When you're in the secluded areas, are you with me? Does it have a negative effect?
It does, yeah, because you don't really get involved, or you don't really mix with. Like you do the Halloween thing for the community. People just come and they'll do the job, or they'll do limited just to get by. Whereas when you're a minority, you have to reach out. Like I went to play rugby at Ponte Rugby Union. You get paired. Who's that lad? Who's he? Because you look different, and then the word spread. So I think when you're secluded in these secluded areas, you don't get a chance to evolve and branch out and show your full capabilities because you're within your circle. But I believe when you're in an area where also it gives you confidence when you go to college to get to know people, when you go to university, when you go to different jobs, when you go to job interviews.
So I look at it this way, Atif. We're on exactly the same page. Because people do look at me weirdly sometimes when you go to more of an area with some more Asian folk, where my cousins live and some from friends, and they think, oh, you live in an area without much of, your same cultural background. And I'm exactly like you. You broaden your horizons when you open your mind. You're not compromising, Atif. You don't have to compromise any of your morals, your religion, your faith, and what you do. Both me and you, Atif, got into arranged marriages, for example, which is, I don't mind talking about it myself. But in terms of going with the flow, how our ancestors did stuff, and it works. So we're living, breathing proof of how things can work on that side of things. And also your faith, obviously you're Muslim, I'm Sikh. But you're not compromising any of your faith if you don't want to either. No. You never drank. You never went out.
Even though we were around it.
Yeah, we was.
All best mate. That's all they ever, certain era, 90s, that's what they went through.
But you didn't have to do that, Adrian, Atif. You could do what you still wanted to do. That's the point I'm raising here.
Yeah.
So you could still stay true to yourself, but still integrate.
Yeah. I didn't have to feel pressurized. I didn't have to think, right, if I do this, they're going to look at me any different. They know who I was, what I stood for, and they knew that I backed them to the hilt. So they already knew my morals and my values. So I didn't feel pressure, or I didn't think, if I don't do this, I'm going to get secluded, or I'm not even going to be looked upon the same. Whereas a lot of people today,
peer pressure,
and going on peer pressure, and the break, and they don't tell the parents. I always had an open relationship with my parents, even though they came from a Asian. What you see in the media, they're far from it.
But I'm sure, Atif, when you were like 18, 19 and your friends were going out, there's a bit of a rebellion inside of you saying, I want to go out as well.
Yeah. I remember once, Mum, several times, at a certain time on a weekend, about 14, 15, I'm going there as well. No, you're not. And then you'd throw you get a mood swing, or you'd think, why? And then looking back at it now, and then looking back at when you listen to these programs and you see where kids have gone astray, they've got into the wrong company and the wrong choices. And choices is a small word, but it leads on to really big things, and it can take you down wrong avenue.
Moral of this story is that your parents care for you, and they're a bit more experienced of the world. Although we think at that time we know exactly what we're doing. Remember, you can close your eyes and cross the road, and your parents will take you through over that road, right? Yeah, you don't need to worry. So that's what I say to my kids. Although it might not look right, seem right, the experience what we've lived through, which when our parents lived through, knew how to guide us through that.
That's right. Because one day, obviously, losing certain friends who I've grown up with, going on to the wrong and making wrong choices, I thought to myself, and you just sit now, and I thought at that age or at that period, this is why my parents were saying, don't go here or stay here. And like you're saying, we thought we knew it all because we were streetwise, but looking back on it, it was done for a reason.
Yeah, they were right, actually. You were right, yeah. And
then now sometimes having kids, we sound like you say something and you think to yourself, I'm sure I've heard that. Oh yeah, my dad said it to me 15, 20 years ago. It's what my mum drums every day. So. And
by the way, that doesn't matter which cultural background you're from. Your parents, 90% of the time, were right, and they're guiding us the right way. Just that we don't see it. But again, highlighting that fact, though, Atif, you're not giving up anything of your who you are.
No.
But you're still able to integrate, and likewise, other folk as well. Accept both ways. It's a two-way street. When you've got good people involved, that's all it takes. It's not your background. It's nothing else. Good is good and bad is bad.
True.
So you stay with the good, you'll stay good. You go with the bad, you might become a little bit bad.
And there was some good people around, and there still is, who used to look after us, older generation. You got your Paul Hartley. Before, like we were saying, something that they had Batesy, you had Ian Brown. Richard Ridge is a pillar of the community, obviously, with his cars, everybody knows him, and there's other families as well. And then I want to touch back on when we used to go on the club, the club trips. We used to go to Blackpool every year, when Halfpenny Lane Club, bowling club, and it was good how all the community got together, and people did used to care and look out for you. And I can still come down now, like you've mentioned. I come and see it, but I can see several people here, families, still respect you. Going to the King's School, obviously we were all different characters, and people were like taken aback, like your Larksil and who are these guys? And, you know, they don't care. They're just fans. They do anything.
Yeah. I want to touch upon that, Atif. Yeah. I used to notice Love Lane was such a community when you used to encounter when all the schools merged together. When you went to King's,
yeah,
you knew exactly the kids that were from Love Lane, Larksil, Monkhill, Nevison, Cobblers,
Chesterfield,
and I felt as though with the Love Lane lot, they didn't know what hit them, but we were more streetwise.
Yeah, of course, we were ahead of us. I mean, we were all listening to what the kids are playing now, the old school rap. We were listening to it.
That's no detriment. I mean, no prejudice against any other area in Pontefract when I say that, but that was my experience. And Atif probably confirms that's what your experience was.
We had a lot of different kids from a lot of different areas who used to come here, just hang around with and do the sort of things we were doing.
And football against Monkhill?
Football, we didn't need a community or we didn't need a club to organise. Through word of mouth, we used to go down to Monkhill on Ladybot Field.
Yeah.
They used to come here at barracks and it was all done within a good spirit. There were no malice. We all know each other. We all shook hands. And it was a community thing. We all used to get involved. And it got us to respect people from different areas. There were no rival. It wasn't like this area, they're like this or they're like that. And likewise, other areas as well. Yeah, it was a good thing.
And yesterday you had, we did a podcast yesterday. I'm just going to come out clean with this.
Yeah.
We had Atif here and we had Andrew Willoughby.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for technical reasons, we've lost that footage. Unfortunately, and it was good.
But people will remember Andrew Willoughby.
Yeah, and we have got a few clips, and we'll put it into this podcast as well. But Andrew touched upon how he came from a background of being adopted yesterday, which I wasn't aware of. And again, that sense of community were built through friendships and getting to know those individuals.
Yeah.
And you very much still, Atif, even yesterday, you had a little reunion. Are still making sure that people don't forget that because it is an important part of your life.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, the respect. I mean, I understand everybody's got the families and they've got half terms, but if you ask any of them, I'll always keep in touch, even on Facebook. How you doing? If you want to chat, if you've got any issues, anything with your kids. I mean, through the fitness, I've helped certain kids. You know, a lot of confidence, do a bit of fitness, a bit of boxing, and it just takes the mind off it.
Yeah, and just for your mum and dad though, just going right back to your mum and your dad.
Yeah,
they very much worked hard all their lives. They did.
Yeah.
Your mum worked in Tesco's.
Yeah, in Tesco's. Yeah, my dad at Glass Factory, which is it were Greg's. Then it became Allied Glass. So yeah, it worked all the lives
and built towards a good future for their kids, which is you.
Yeah.
But now you're going forward with your own children. You face different challenges.
Yeah.
Social media becomes a part of it these days.
Social media, the way that the kids interact, the way that they go out and about, and who they're able to have access and interaction with. So as times have evolved, as parents, we've had to evolve. But as directors, what we used to give it to our, mention things to our kids or say it's one way. Now it's like a family tree. It can branch different ways. You have to listen to where they're coming from, and you have to touch in, because if it's all direction and dictation, you won't be able to identify when they're going through, I won't say an hard time, or whether they need some guidance. And you, with your experience, will know which way, which avenue to challenge that. Or if you've got that relationship with them, like a friendship relationship, then you can address different things and you can have interaction as well.
One of my first memories came to Pontefract with my granddad and my dad to look at the shop.
Yeah.
A prospective option to be the new owners of what were known as Bullers at the time.
Bullers, yeah.
And I looked outside. I still remember the entrance door, and I saw his mum with Artie in a pram walking by. But that's the only Asian face I saw while I was here, for about 3 hours. And it was a bit alien. We were just young myself, but a bit alien.
Yeah.
But we've got to say, in 2024, we're sat here, your family's been here, my family's been here, and we've expanded those families. And it's just a big up to Love Lane and Ponty.
Yeah, people as well. Good people around here, good community cohesion. And even though the times with the governments and the fun you hear people saying there's not like it's this or that, there's still some good people out there who remember you for your values. But what we must touch on as well, I was mentioning Love Lane, obviously Kingsmead. We were we were here, but we were glad to see you, another Asian family. Obviously there was Steve as well on Wakefield Road. Poogle stores or Wakey Road stores, and he was one of the first with the videos. Going back to growing up, he used to do the videos as well. And he's a testament to the community as well, isn't he? So.
Atif, it's a testament to the whole community. Doesn't matter what background they're from. It's a whole community making sure we're there for each other. And we have always been there for each other. And I think we're an example to a lot of other areas that you've got to broaden your horizons. Well, and that works, again, when I say that works for the minority and the broader, the majority, to make sure that we recognise individuals for their individualness, not like the narrative.
And just to touch on that, they don't want to make it like we're neglecting other areas. We even know in Mill Hill there was a guy up there, Ramesh, who run a shop. So to anybody from Mill Hill area or Larkshill who think we just love Lane and we want aware of what we're going on, and even in Larkshill there was a guy called Nat. Which is now it's now a fast food. So it just shows you I do still keep in touch with different areas, even though it's going through so I think that now has become I think it might be an hairdresser on one side and a fast food on the other.
All right, then, Atif, do you want to apologise for any hedges going down Larkshill now?
Any hedges?
You bit of garden up and down there,
a few washing lines, with adrenaline going. We fell over a few times, winded ourselves, but it were all done in fun. And through conifers, but they weren't just Larkshill, they're everywhere.
Anybody's
Chesterfield.
Back in those early 90s, if anybody's head came down any washing lines, right? Atif probably isn't the one to blame because he probably hurdled it all right. It was the rest of the crew
parading through.
And just before we finish, Atif, your best friends, just to mention a few names growing up. I try to refrain away because everybody's down their path, but there's nothing wrong in saying who's your best friends growing up.
Yeah, so we had Wayne Stapleton. Obviously, everybody knows him from his music and his records, his vinyl and his rap music, and just his size as well, his frame.
Yeah.
Dean Barker, who's sadly not with us anymore, obviously, as we touched. Mark Atkinson, obviously, loud, brash, and got me into a lot of fights along with Dean, and we're all over. Gerard, obviously, who came on. There was my brother, there was yourself, there was Bobby, going on to Andrew Tinsley, another person who's unfortunately not with us anymore. Nathan Rhodes from Parkside.
Yeah.
Andrew Willoughby, who came on yesterday.
Yeah.
And then we had people from other areas like Clint Semley, he used to come. Carl Bullock, can't forget Carl.
Oh.
James Thatcher.
Yeah.
Richard Arter, who's moved on to other things further down Halfpenny Lane. And then we go on to older generation and a few younger ones, but that were part of our...
So many names to name and so many people part of them, pillars of the community, you see, yeah? But like I say, Atif, it's been great to have you on the show. Apologies for yesterday and having to come back in again. But this is what we're doing at BB Shop Pod. We're bringing the community of Love Lane in particular, but Pontefract as a broader place, and bringing those stories that we've had in this shop all our lives, pretty much, for 40 years.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that. This was a hub where we used to play the games. It was ahead of its time with the arcade games, and his dad as well used to look after us all.
Yeah,
he had a vision that's, that Pont is probably trying to do now with the retro games. So, yeah.
Sorry, my phone just went off there. Just put it on silent, guys.
All right.
But yeah, what we did back there, Atif, it was... I look at it now, and it can't be done now.
No. I mean, you've got all these disclosures to sign, and it took so many kids off street, and the parents knew, where are you? I'm at Bullers, or I'm at the Bogle, but I'm at the shop.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if we're becoming a better world or going in the wrong direction, I'm not sure. There's elements that we've improved on as society, but I think there's elements we've regressed. The red tape to go through what we did, what you'd have to do today.
Is just
you couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's probably
impossible. But we literally took kids off the streets and had a little bit of a youth centre in here.
Yeah, of course.
And
And it brought other areas aware of you. You know, there were nothing like that in Chequerfield at that time. Carlton, there were nothing like that with arcade games and pool. You'd have to go to as far as probably Wakefield or bigger cities that somewhere offers bowling.
And my dad had a vision, and obviously we went through with it because he had a vision. He thought it'd be good for the business, good for the community, and that's what we did. And really built on those footings. Have we continued in that same vein today in a different way? Yeah. We haven't got arcade room anymore, the pool table, but we always make sure we're involved in the community.
Yeah, just going back to that when I mentioned the names, we can't forget Matthew, can we? Little Matthew Davison. We can't forget him, and Wayne Wick, obviously, down the street.
Yeah.
We don't want them, pulling us up and getting.
No, so well, my name. Listen, we mentioned them all. It's too hard. Everybody in this area, Atif. Yeah. And thank you for still joining everybody together, Atif. Yeah. You always come in. You always ask how we are. It's easy to when you move away, Atif, and becoming disconnected. Yeah. But actually, I think if your arteries are long enough, but your heart's always here. You see, yeah. So your mind might be over there. But your heart's definitely in this area, and we love to have it, Atif. So thank you very much again. Problem. Yeah, no problems. Thank you very much. BB Shop Pod, subscribe, like, comment, and we'll keep on bringing you some great chats with our local community. See you till next time. So we touched upon how our children gone to state schools as well, aren't they? Yeah, not private schools. You know, we had the luxury later on in life. My parents probably didn't have the luxury, but we had the luxury if we wanted to send our children to posh schools, as we probably call them, private school. But we chose not to. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying there's no benefit going to private school, because no doubt there probably is that little bit more of an academic. But your brother showed going through state school, if you want an education, you can go and get an education.
In an environment like this, where substance abuse came in, people chose wrong paths. But he's living proof and walking proof. You can still live around there, live in you can call it a deprived or area of less production than other areas, and you can still make it through. He went on to Sheffield University, has gone on to a good career, accountant. And
but there were good schools around here, though.
Yeah, they were run well, which is a testament to when we were at King's School, Mr. Kenningham and all his staff that work there. In fact, I'm still in touch with some teachers who have now retired.
So again, that's an example that as long as you've got good schools, they don't have to be private schools, they can be state schools. Yep. My children, Bob's children, your own children, going to state schools can get that education if you want it. The negative part of going to private school, which we were just having a candid conversation, is you sort of lose touch of reality.
Because you all end up doing the same thing. You go to the cricket club in the summer, or you go to a football club or rugby union, and that's all you see. Whereas these state schools, you see kids from all walks of life, and you get exposed at a young age to seeing how people are suffering, how people are struggling, people who are making ends meet, and people who you can put as less fortunate, or they're in just a different circumstance, finding their feet in another country, and you get exposed there. So when you go into university or you go on in another career, you've already got some scope and some knowledge of people from different backgrounds and different groups.
So you know something, Atif. When I as you grow up and you get older and you look at politics and you go into when you even voting people, what I like to see, one of the first things I like to personally see is how much are they in touch with the general public. You see, everyday people, and that's what I like to see. So as a fellow British Asian, to see someone like Rishi Sunak make it right to the top of the tree, it gives you a sense of like, look, this country is so open to the idea that you can have a non-white prime minister, for example. You see, there might be some hurdles to overcome. I'm not for a moment saying it's easy, but it's possible. I think that's the main thing. Yeah, it's possible. But even when I saw somebody like Rishi Sunak at the top of it, I thought he still doesn't relate to who I am.
Missing on so many things, he can't, like we've talked about in our podcast, he cannot relate to how we've grown up and how we've evolved within a non-white area, and how people portray our morals and how we can touch to the working class. He's got no link with people. He's even said it when he said he doesn't know anybody of any normal working class.
I've got no working class friends. Well, then how's he going to relate to the most of Britain?
Struggling out, yeah, exactly. And not just there's him, and then obviously you've got in London Sadiq Khan, similar sort of thing again. He's in London, yeah, he's implementing all these things, but how many people do you know, like your tradesmen? How many people do you know who are tradesmen?
So
people who are
not geographical locations don't have a clue sometimes. Yeah. So that's why I think it's important, and it was important for my children. You know, we got to a place in life through hard work and effort, what my mum and my dad put in. And likewise, your parents, what you've done and we have continued to, where you could say, right, then, can I push the boat out and send my children to private school? So it's a case of, can you? And the answer probably is yes. Do I want to? And the answer is categorically no. Because what you might gain a little bit extra academically, you lose
You're losing everyday people skills and their background and knowledge. Streetwise as well.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do you hear of, they're out of their element in a certain area? Yeah, they've gone to university, but they're not streetwise, and they get, fraud cases or being manipulated.
So it makes you more of a rounded human being, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gives you more scope.
More scope.
More scope, more vision, more awareness.
That's what we want. So, look, this is what we do in our BB Shop Pod Stockroom Bites. Talk about everything. That's what we do in the shop, Atif. All day, every day. We talk to different members of the community, different customers. How's their day going?
It's good.
Their happiness, what their sorrows. But at the same time, what creates that political graph around here as well? People have a voice, and people do have their opinions. But at the same time, I'd like what I personally like to see is people that are in charge that know how to connect. And if they don't know how to connect, well, then they don't know what we're up to.
What they've done is they've put social classes. So they look at attrition, like, all these people are going to be complaining, or they're going to be saying that we're non-compliant, but they're looking to just please the people at the top, to keep it's more politically about the career, in it, than the people.
Yeah.
They're more looking for themselves than looking at a group or a segment of people.
But putting politics to one side, Atif, just a final touch upon my mum and my dad, I suppose, right? Yeah. Your family's view of my mum and dad, and obviously Bibi Papa as well, right? Grandpa and grandma. Yeah. But your mum had a great bond with my dad, and your dad had a great bond with my dad as well. And my mum, not saying that, but I do remember early on, my dad used to affectionately call your mum his sister.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah.
He used to come out, have a go on the BMXs. He used to join in the community. He used to come down and say, when he gets married, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Sadly, he's not with us, but he's always in his hearts and always in his minds. I've still got photographs you've put up of your mum and dad. I've got them at home blown up. You know that one, did you?
No, I didn't know. No.
There you go.
No. But that's the people that have made. It's not how long they're here on this planet. It's how much of an effect they have on you as well. But that was the warmth of both families that we found a connection, definitely. Being of a different minority, we were from a minority background, but how we still connected with our community. My dad was very much fond of you guys. And you found that connection. Papa, obviously,
your granddad, and your grandma as well. She used to come down and talk to my mum. Yeah.
And they had the language barrier, so obviously speaking Punjabi, Urdu, for you guys made that connection a little bit easier, having what they felt were one of our own. So I appreciate your family's support all the way through it.
Always been there and always been checking, and always different occasions and different times.
Yeah,
and it's a testament to yourself. Obviously, losing your dad, it wasn't easy. At that age, we were all on the street, going around messing about. And it's like your mum, she held everything together.
It's my mum's 70th birthday next year, Atif. We are going to do something for that. So that'll be something I'll communicate to you about.
Yeah, no problem.
But it's 40 years in business as well. Out of those 40 years, my dad only probably saw 5 years of it.
So just as it's getting going, isn't it?
Just as it's getting going. So our mum's been our dad in a way, and took on that role. But those few people that were here to support, like I said, your family were just around the corner. You always did that, and gave my mum the support that she needed through that phase to get us to where we are here today. And there's no doubt, like I say, from afar when you look at it, a tough journey for my mum.
Very tough, yeah.
But she lost some great human beings around her. You know, when you talk about in 4 years, she lost dad,
Yeah.
then my grandma,
Your grandma, yeah.
and then granddad.
Yeah.
And all 3 of those individuals were lost over a 4-year period.
Yeah, it's very tough.
It's very tough. And for my mum, they was like the pillars.
The pillars, yeah.
And I'm no doubt a lot of people, look, grief is part of life.
Yeah.
And we have to accept and how you handle those situations. But I think the deck of cards my mum she held at the time were pretty shit.
Yeah. Well, very, yeah.
But she got through it.
Testament, isn't it?
It is testament. And like I say, from your view of that is to see a strong lady.
A strong lady, yeah, and utmost respect and a lot of dignity, a lot of morals, and look at where you've got to today. And everybody who knows you and remembers you, obviously remember your dad and speak highly of him. And it's a lot of accolade needs to go to your mum.
No problem. Respect one another, yeah. Respect for one another, right? Yeah.
There's all sorts we can go on that one.
No, but
I'll leave you on that.
But it is though. It's respect for each other.
Compassion, love.
Yeah, everything. Respect and love. You know, if you keep it down to that, you keep humanity at the highest level, then I think everything does fall into place. But that utopia, by the way, doesn't exist. So maybe we'll save that for another.
No,
another
it does exist, but it's weird how people. Yeah, so that'll be a next one.
That'll be the next one, right? Yeah. So anyway, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, comment. BB Shop Pod. We're gonna keep our guests coming, and this time round, Atif, it was great to have you and talking about old times. And Andrew.
Much love, always.
Much love, right? I hope you enjoyed it, guys, right? Yeah? And just talking about, and it forever digitally kept up until the moment human civilization then comes to an end, by the way, right, Andrew? Yeah, and the aliens come down, and then they find these digital equipment and think there was a civilization here. What was it all about?
Back on the spaceships, and then we'll be like, well, that's just a dream.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah.